Hi guys, welcome to this video and welcome to my channel. My name is Laura from Pleiadian Healer at pleiadianhealer.com. Today we're going to talk about a very fun and also sacred concept, and that's going to be your 10 hours of power. So what are your 10 hours of power and how can you make the most of it? So the emphasis is on your, because 10 hours of power are going to be different for every single person. This has to do with your actual solar return, or also known as birthday. And we're going to go through how you can calculate your 10 hours of power for every single year. You can go through the past years even and see where you were during that time, but we're going to do it just to show you how you can do it on your own. And then I just want to talk about the background of this concept as well. So the 10 hours of power are something that I personally came across a few years ago. I want to say it was around 2020, around that time, when we were all kind of locked down and had a lot of time just to do research on a whole bunch of things. But basically, I came across a post, and this post had to do with your 10 hours of power. And then I started to dig into it, and I was like, this resonates so much with me that I actually went back in time and calculated my own 10 hours of power for the years before that even, and I saw a certain pattern. So what are the 10 hours of power? Every year, there are 5 hours before and 5 hours after your actual solar return. You have a window of these 10 hours total opening up. And these 10 hours are going to be crucial to determine your year ahead and the nature of the interactions that you are going to have with others, with other people. During this time, it is of essence to eliminate any distractions, negative interactions, or potential friction, which could occur by interacting with other people. And I'm saying people because I don't think this really applies to pets if you have a pet or something at home, but it usually is people. At least that's the pattern I've mostly seen over the years. It would be advisable to also turn off all electronic screens, such as laptops, phones, tablets, and not even answer a doorbell if it is at all possible. So we're talking about your actual birthday. For some people, and I know for me that's been the case too, it depends on the time zone you're in, and you'll see it when we calculate how the solar return and the 10 hours of power come about. Your actual 10 hours of power could actually be even the day before or the day after. It really depends on the time zone you're in. But I know for people, not answering the doorbell and those kind of things on your actual birthday, it can be difficult and hard, especially if you're one of those people who invite people over, and or like you're expecting a package or something, or you order takeout or a delivery or whatever. But it is very important to actually eliminate all of this during this 10-hour window, because these are going to be your most powerful 10 hours for the 365 days ahead. And I'm not over exaggerating when I'm saying this, because I've had negative interactions during my 10 hours of power. And I've seen a pattern kind of shape out in the year following that too. I'm not saying that this is all just superstition or whatever, but I do think the 10 hours of power are one of those long lost or just not very well known spiritual concepts, in addition to other concepts that we have. So we have the 3 sad weeks, which usually occurs in the summer. I'm going to do a separate video and post on that because it's so important. But in addition to those really sacred and spiritual concepts, I do believe the 10 hours of power is one of those where it's just, it's sacred time, and we need to utilize it to our advantage if we can. They are long forgotten in our own society because our society does not really teach us any of this. And this is just one of those concepts that I've come across and that I wanted to share with you. So even going to a store or having the possibility of a foul encounter with another customer or clerk or just anyone on the street could actually project some difficult interactions with other people in the year ahead. I personally never understood the importance of the 10 hours of power up until recently. Like I said, I would say around the year 2020, because that's when I started adhering to it and had one of the best birthdays because of it. I went the extreme end. I turned off my cell phone and all my electronic devices for a good 28 hours even, although it's really not necessary to go that far with the rules. But for me personally, people who know me, people who are actually my friends or even my family at this point, everyone who's close to me knows that my birthday is one of the most important days of the year. And I know for some people, their birthday just really doesn't matter. You know, I have friends like that too, who what I always found was for people who they don't honor their birthday the same way other people do, they don't really wish other people a happy birthday the same way either, or they don't really give much thought to it when they forget another person's birthday. But I'm personally one of those people who I'm not talking to you as a public audience because I don't really make my birthday public at this point. But if some close friend or family member forgot my birthday, I actually get really upset with that. I get kind of mad with that too, because my birthday to me personally is really one of the most sacred times and one of the most important times in my life. It could have to do with the fact, as you guys know, at this point, I have a twin sister. I had a twin sister, and I still have a twin sister, but we actually used to share a birthday, everything together. So it could have a lot of things to do with that. That if you're sharing something with someone, you always were a bit on the short end or the receiving side of a shorter end or whatever. But I personally just think for some people, their birthday is really important, people like me, and for others, their birthday really isn't that much of a big deal. My father is one of those people who he doesn't even really celebrate his birthday anymore, and he doesn't really care much about it. It always baffled me a bit. But for me, on my birthday for the past 10, 11, 12 years, ever since I came of age, how you want to call that, where you're actually at an age where you're able to travel and do all the things that you want because you actually have just all of the support and everything behind you. I've always traveled on my birthday, always made it like one of the most special days of the year. I always took like a nice trip, even if it was just like a day trip somewhere, or I actually traveled to a new country or whatever. So I always made my birthday very special. And what I also find is it's not just your actual solar return, your actual day that your birthday is on, but it's also the weeks to follow that are very powerful. So when people kind of celebrate their birthday before or after, there's something to that as well. Although I personally think it's more powerful to celebrate the weeks after. So I would say up until 4 weeks after or like a month after, you're in this powerful cycle of your life where you're basically starting a whole new cycle just for yourself, right? It's not the new year unless your birthday actually falls on January 1st or whatever. But it's not just the new year that starts a powerful new cycle, but for you personally, your solar return is the most powerful time of year because it starts this new cycle for you. And for some, it starts a whole new decade, it starts a whole new something, right? So I firmly believe the entire month after your birthday is important even. And I think this is also why some people, not me though, but some people subconsciously even celebrate for 1 month straight. I have my one friend, her birthday's in December, so I think she's a Sagittarius, if I'm not mistaken. But she basically celebrated her birthday for 1 month straight over these past few years. And I was like, okay, people think I'm extreme, but actually this person's even more extreme in that sense. So I'm sure we all know people like that who are just like celebrating for an entire month just because it's like their birthday month or whatever. And I think there's something to it. And I always think you should just make it a special day, do something special on it. And the 10 hours of power are just part of that, kind of really tapping into this powerful energy that you have for the 5 hours before and the 5 hours after your actual solar return on that specific year. And how you can make the most of it is simply, well, the best case scenario is when it falls during the night and you're actually asleep anyhow, which sometimes it does. For some of my birthdays in the past, it definitely has. And that was like the easiest solution ever because you can go to bed and you can just not speak to anyone or whatever for 2 hours before that. If you only sleep 8 hours a night or whatever, you can go to bed, turn off your cell phone because it's going to be your birthday anyhow. You don't have to set an alarm clock unless you're working. And then you go to bed and you wake up and your 10 hours of power are basically over and you don't have to worry about any of this. But for a lot of times, you're going to be awake during these 10 hours of power. And so you can consciously make something of it. And so for me personally, I've always kind of had the habit of turning off my phone during my birthday, even before I knew about this concept. Somehow, intuitively or subconsciously, I was just kind of like, I don't want to be bothered with checking my phone on my birthday. I don't want to be stressed by a million notifications. I don't even really want to receive a phone call. This is my day and my day only, and I'm going to do whatever I want to do on it. So that's kind of always the attitude I had from my 20s and on. For other people, they really enjoy checking their 300 plus Facebook messages or however many they get on their birthday. But for me personally, the messages I got, they could wait at least a day or two after my birthday. And I kind of felt I always wanted to stay offline on that specific day anyhow. I know for some people, they invite people over, they have parties. So I usually always did those after my birthday anyhow. I really couldn't be bothered with all the stress of organizing something on my actual birthday. I always felt it had to do, I always felt I just wanted to make that day special for me personally and me only, if that makes sense. Even, let's just say you're with a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, even in that case, obviously you want to spend it with them, but that would only be like one or two people. Or if you have a family, if you have children, of course, that's a different scenario too. But for me, that's just kind of how I've done it in the past. And then with the 10 hours of power, you would literally just try to do whatever you enjoy, like I enjoy drawing. I actually enjoy just a lot of things that don't involve electronics. So I would maybe even journal or write some thoughts down or just dance or whatever it is you can do during that time without being in front of electronics. There's a lot that you can do. Now, my own experiences that I've had where people have actually tried to ruin my 10 hours of power are this one time. And luckily it was already after, like it was shortly after this period of 10 hours of power. This one time I was walking around my city and this one guy literally wanted to run me over with his car. And I think this was even in 2020. So this is like during really crazy times. I know he was joking, but it kind of seemed he was half joking. So when I'm talking about, AI working through people, I've literally seen that happen on like one of the most important days of my life. And birthday is part of that, obviously, but I'm like, wow, this guy is really trying to ruin my day. I can already tell. So I had those type of things happen. On one of my birthdays, what I ended up doing was I took a day trip somewhere and I made sure that I wasn't traveling during those 10 hours, but I knew I was going to be out in nature during those 10 hours. So kind of like hiking around. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to be doing that, I'm just going to make sure to not talk to a single person that I encounter. And I'm pretty good with that anyhow. So lo and behold, I think it was an hour before my personal 10 hours of power were supposed to end, I come across this father-son couple, and I kid you not, the father was saying something like literally something really nasty that somehow my energy rubbed him the wrong way or whatever. Or once again, I really think it's AI working through these people. And he said something so nasty about just something I don't even really know exactly what it was. It was either about me personally, or I had my dog at that time. So we were kind of hiking around in nature. He said something about my dog or the way I was holding my dog where I was just like, wow, I can't believe this. And on the entire hike that I was on, I had actually not seen a single person up until that point because it was in a more remote area. And I was like, I can't believe that an hour or 30 minutes before my 10 hours of power are ending, I encountered this nasty person with a really friendly son, because the son was actually okay, who has to say one sentence and try to ruin everything. And I'm like, now I understand the importance of 10 hours of power and why you're supposed to just, sit away from people and not have anything ruin your day and your entire year ahead. Because if you have one of the most toughest times during your 10 hours of power, let's just say you encounter a lot of people who are like in a foul mood. Like, let's just say a delivery man knocks on the door. He's in such a foul mood because it's the summer or the winter and the weather's just crazy, and it's like he's just in a foul mood for whatever reason. That's going to rub off onto you. Energetically, you're going to pick up on that somehow. And that might very well shape the next few months for you ahead, or the next year for you even ahead. So sometimes I've had really tough years where I was looking back and thinking, did something happen, on this specific day, like on my birthday or whatever, that kind of shaped it ahead because this and that. But at the end of the day, even if you're 10 hours of power, like if you're going back because you're seeing this and your birthday was like a few days or weeks or months ago, you're going back and being like, oh no, my 10 hours of power, I didn't do much of that during it. You don't freak out. It's just something that you can really just use for the year ahead or whenever your next birthday is. And it's something, just a pattern maybe that you want to go back even over the next 5 years or up to 10 years and see how it might have really shaped your life or the year ahead, because that's pretty much what I did. I'm a pretty analytical person anyhow. I like to see patterns and things. So I went through the years, I think up until like 2016 or 15, and I kind of analyzed what I did during my 10 hours of power and how it could have shaped the year ahead. Some of them did fall during the night, which was good, but some of them actually fell flat on in the day. And on this one time, I think it was in 2016 or so, I was actually on a trip in South America where it was like one of the worst trips of my life because I lost a good friend during that trip. It's kind of like when you travel with friends, you're not friends anymore after that. It's kind of what the situation was like. It actually turned into a really bad trip in that sense. But at the same time, I also kind of feel it was just because I had this foul interaction or a few foul interactions on my actual birthday during that time. And I was like, okay, well, that could have kind of made sense, but maybe the friendship was over to begin with anyhow. So I kind of stand with it, after analyzing a certain pattern. If you want to honor your 10 hours of power, you're not going to have any bad moments by honoring it, but you might have some bad moments if you do have some bad interactions during it, and you're not just in your own energy, you're not just in your own space. Okay, how are you going to actually determine what your 10 hours of power are? So I will pull up this website, which is very easy. All of this information you can find for free online. So first of all, I'm going to point you to cafeastrology.com. And this is not necessarily for the solar return chart. That's a different website. But Cafe Astrology actually has some pretty interesting resources too. So you can do like compatibility with certain signs that you have. You can use like the year ahead horoscope, all of that for you. And as far as I know, a lot of it is just free. So you might as well want to take advantage of it if you are into astrology. Now, I'm personally not even that much into astrology, and I still believe the concept of the 10 hours of power is quite powerful. So just to give you an idea of, I'm really not even into any of these things because I'm very critical towards astrology, but somehow this concept stuck with me. There we go to horoscopes.astro-seek.com. I'm going to put the website in the video description too. And this is your free solar return chart. So some astrologers, if you're the type of person who gets a reading every single year for the year ahead or for your birthday or whatever ahead, some astrologers, I think, charge an extra fee for the solar return chart. I don't know if it's like $5 or $10 or $15, but you can basically just look it up online for free as well. And this is going to be a very handy tool to look it up. Now we're just going to pick a random date, okay, just to kind of give you an idea of how it works with any type of date. So solar return chart calculator, let's just put in the 10th of February or 10th of March. That's 1970. Let's stick with that. Now, what you would want to know is the place you were born. So if you were born in New York City, if you were born in Oslo, if you were born in the Philippines, if you were born in Sydney, you want to know the exact city. And then you also want to know the exact time for it to be accurate. So if some of you don't have your exact time, it might be a good time just to order your birth certificate or ask your mother. I know for some people that's not possible, but for this solar return chart calculator, you do need the exact time. I personally didn't know my exact birth time up until, I would say, 10 years ago when I had first ordered my birth certificate. And it wasn't even because I wanted to calculate any of this. It's just because I needed it to apply for a passport or something like that. So At one point, you might have just needed your birth certificate. You might just have it lying around, just the way I did. But if not, it would be good for you just to find out when you were born. Now we can just put in, let's just say this person was born on March 10th, 1970 at 3 p.m. and the minutes would be, I don't know, 3:15. Let's just do 3:18 or something random like that. So the birth city, why don't we just put Oslo in? Oslo, Norway. Does that sound good for all the European watchers? And then here you can calculate the solar return in 2023 or in the years before up until what, 1800? If you want to go that far, I don't think it's relevant in this lifetime, but sure. And you can go up until 2099. And so it's pretty neat. But let's just stick with the year 2023 and then the city you're going to be in. So let's just say this person moved to New York City, which is where I currently am in, or let's just say they moved to New Delhi, India. How exciting. What an exciting life from Oslo to New Delhi. And then you're going to calculate the solar return for this random person. Okay, so you have a full-on birth chart. I mean, we have the cookie settings down here. I always hate when those pop up, don't you? Okay, so universal time usually doesn't apply for a lot of people. I think universal time is closer to European or UK time, if I'm not mistaken. But basically, the solar return, and you have that information right here, the solar chart. So you have the birth chart and the solar chart, and then you have all of these this one chart, which astrologists would know what it is. You know, you have your Venus and this, your Mars and that, the sun and that. But it's not relevant for our solar chart right here. So the 10th of March, 2023, if this person had been in New Delhi, India at this time, it would have been at 1627, which is military time. So that's the Indian time. So this basically means 4 p.m., 27 minutes. And so their 10 hours of power would have been at 11:27 a.m. in the morning. That's when it would have started. And it would have gone until 21:27. So that would be 9:27 p.m. So basically from 11 a.m. in the morning till 9:30 p.m. or whatever, which is a tough time, especially on your birthday, right? They would have wanted to stay away from any people, really. Especially those foul-mooded delivery people, or just like clerks, store clerks or whatever. So they would have wanted to stay away from those type of people and probably just be to their own, do whatever, maybe swim in the ocean, whatever it is they want to do. Whatever you do in New Delhi, I know there's not really an ocean close by. So that's just a perfect example of it. Sometimes it just falls smack in the middle of the day. Now, what's interesting is, you know, sometimes, because I know I've spent birthdays far, far away, you know, on one of my birthdays, I was actually in Southeast Asia. So that would have been because, you know, usually my city is New York City. So that would have been like a huge time difference of 14 hours. Another time I was actually in Sydney, Australia during one of my birthdays. So for the one time when I was in Australia, I think my solar return or the solar chart even said that my 10 hours of power would have been like the day before my actual birthday or the day after, I forgot. But you might just want to go back over the years and see where you were, where your 10 hours of power were, what time frame they were, and whether if there's really a pattern for you, because I did find there was a certain pattern for me personally. So once again, you can go to the solar return chart and do it for every single year ahead. So we can even do it for, like, I think I did it up until the year 2025 or 2027, just out of fun. So we can just use this random date, 1st of January, 1970, maybe 5 a.m. They're born at 5 a.m. Let's just say Santa Fe, New Mexico. I like that city a lot. Okay. Santa Fe, New Mexico. And then they're going to be, let's just say they're going to be in the same city, Santa Fe, New Mexico. Where's Santa Fe? Right here. Okay, so let's just say in 2027, their solar return, their 10 hours of power. So their solar chart says it's going to be at 1 a.m. So this is actually perfect. Okay, on the 1st of January, 1 a.m., which I do realize that's New Year's Eve for a lot of people. but their 10 hours of power are going to start 5 hours before that. So that's going to be around 8 o'clock in the evening. And then it's going to be over at around 6 a.m. in the morning. So this is a perfect example of how when it falls into the nighttime, it's actually the best time ever, because you're obviously not interacting with people during that time anyhow. Okay, so I kind of hope this helped clarifying the 10 hours of power for you. And there are a lot of free resources online. You can obviously also ask an astrologer if you're curious about it. I'm sure some of them would know about this. I'm not sure every single astrologer knows about this, but I do know some would know about it. And there are free resources online, such as this site right here, the Cafe Astrology one. But this one really is the solar return chart calculator. And you do have to kind of know your date of birth, like your exact date of birth, and also the city you were born in, which the city shouldn't be an issue for a lot of people. I find it's really more the exact date of birth that's an issue, especially for men. For whatever reason, they just don't really care that much about it, or maybe it's just a stereotype. But yeah, I hope this kind of clarified it for you. And comment below if you've known about this before or what your thoughts are. And talk to you very soon. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful one.